Our Free and Equal segment tonight, liberal icon Gloria Steinem said more abortions, that would have stopped global warming. And I thought conservatives were supposed to be the anti-science ones. Steinem said climate deprivation is caused by population and that more abortions would have prevented the Earth's temperature from rising. But then why stop with abortions? If Steinem had her way, we'd start killing Trump voters too in the name of saving the environment. Joining me now from the American Legislative Exchange Council, Taylor McCarty. Taylor, good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Taylor, there have been a lot of insane propositions about how we can stop climate change. We heard from President Obama that climate change is the biggest national security threat our country faces. But this, from Gloria Steinem, this is insane. She said we could have prevented the rising temperature of the Earth if women had just aborted all their children.
Well, I wish I could remember the last time Gloria Steinem said something and I didn't roll my eyes, but that's not the case. I'm gonna leave the climate change to the scientists, and I feel that Ms. Steinem should do the same. I think this is just her desperately trying to hang on to the 60s and the 70s when she was still relevant, but today she probably wouldn't even recognize the state of the feminist movement.
No, it's insane, and I actually want to read, for our viewers' sake, I want to read exactly what her quote was. She said, "Listen, what causes climate deprivation is population. If we had not been systematically forcing women to have children they don't want or can't care for over the 500 years of patriarchy, we wouldn't have the climate problems that we have. That's the fundamental cause of climate change." So now she's saying that women, just the fact that women have babies, that we're forced to do that?
Well, I think this is absurd, obviously. And when it comes to climate change and abortion, I mean, excuse me if I'm wrong, Ms. Steinem, but I really do not see the connection here. So I think this is just her in an attempt to be controversial, to say things, to get more attention, to draw attention to the movement, and to capitalize on the fear-mongering and the culture of alarmism we've seen centered around climate change, but liberalism more generally.
Right. I mean, I get what her correlation is. She's saying that every person on Earth has a carbon footprint, and that, you know, liberal scientists say that carbon footprints are what causes the changing temperature of the Earth. I get that. But what she's saying in a deeper way, I guess her sub-tweet, if you will, what she's saying in a deeper way is that the environment is more important than human life. And that just speaks to her entire lack of value for human life on one hand, which is shocking, although not surprising given how she's been a shill for Planned Parenthood. But it also speaks to the fact that liberals claim climate change is science, but really they follow it blindly as if it were some sort of religion instead.
I completely agree with you. And I think we see this a lot in terms of the left and the liberal political movement, and especially fourth wave feminism as well. If you are not lockstep with them, if you're afraid to step 1 foot out of their groupthink ideology, I can't believe we're even having this conversation where we're putting the value of human life below this sort of alarmism. So I hope that, you know, people will be able to step back and say, okay, hopefully that's not really what she meant. Because it is just truly absurd.
I personally hope that people do understand that that is what she meant. She's advocating actively for abortion, but in another sense, what kind of policy would she be advocating for here in our country, given these comments? I mean, does she want us to institute a one-child policy? Does she think that would be the solution to climate change?
So unfortunately, I mean, you raise a good point, but if you look at China and you look at their historically horrible pollution and environmental issues, they just recently, up until very, very recently, had a one-child policy. They amended it to, you are now allowed to have 2 children. Woohoo. I mean, this isn't solving their climate issues. It's been tried before and it hasn't worked. So I don't know what her policy prescription is for this.
No, I think her policy prescription is what she said in the past, that she doesn't believe women are fully equal to men unless we have unlimited access to abortion, and apparently exercise that access. So she said something else nutty at the same time, though. This is very interesting. She said that masculinity is problematic for men. She was asked how one can raise a little boy to be a better feminist. Every parent's best question, I think. This was her response. She said, "Tell them the masculine realm is killing them. It's in their self-interest. Men would live quite a few years longer without the masculine realm." Taylor, this is mind-boggling to me. So she hates men. She doesn't want men to be masculine. She likes the earth more than she likes people, and she advocates for women to abort all their children. That's awful.
I mean, I laugh to keep from crying because it's absolutely twisted. And this is what's wrong with the feminist movement today. It's a huge cultural movement issue. There's a reason why only 23% of women want to embrace the term feminist. If she's the poster child, if she's the one who's championed this issue ever since the 60s, that's not something I want to be associated with. You can bring women up without tearing women down, and I think we're seeing less and less of that in 2017.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, when I read her article, I had the same reaction. I said, well, it's feminists like her who turn off independent millennial thinkers such as ourselves from wanting to identify with the term feminist, because she's a man hater who is advocating for women to kill their babies. No one wants to associate with that. She also made a comment on Trump. She says it's dangerous to have someone who doesn't represent America or even seem to know that there are 3 branches of government. This is ironic to me. It's like they have no logical consistency whatsoever, because she's worried about the balance of power in our government, yet she doesn't even understand that in our Constitution, every person is protected. Their right to life, their right to liberty, and their right to property is protected. She openly advocates for abortion, not understanding that those people, unborn people, scientifically proven people, also have a right to life.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's a really tough question for me, because people ask me all the time, do you consider yourself a feminist? And I say, sure, I do believe in the political, social, and economic equality of women. However, the Constitution reigns supreme. You can't say you're a feminist and say, oh, people who don't believe in free markets, limited government, and the right to celebrate life, you can't exclude that. I mean, there's no wonder that the liberal feminist movement is having such a hard time finding allies, because they're not welcoming women from across the aisle to the discussion.
No, they claim to champion women, but they only champion women who
Absolutely
espouse
not.
views that they agree with, not anyone else. Certainly not pro-life women. Taylor, thanks for coming on the show. It was great to talk to you. All right, guys, we've got a good one for you next. A liberal college student goes psycho on campus at the sight of, wait for it, a sign supporting Donald Trump. Hit me up on Twitter at Liz_Wheeler over the break, and we'll see you back here in just a minute.